think about Michael Burry's? Am I even saying that right? Michael Burry's 1.6 billion bet against the market. Where were you on that?
Well,
Did that scare you at all? Because you're a stock guy.
well, I'm more of a day trader, so and I like the bearish side. When things go down, I tend to make more money when things go down than when they go up. It's just I find shorting a little more natural for me. But his position, it's 1.6 billion, theoretical, but the actual position I think it was only like 26 million. So basically, it was an options bet. And since
Okay.
options are like, one option contract represents 100 shares, that's probably why everyone says 1.6 billion. It's more of a theoretical value, but the actual value of his position, I think it was like 26 million, which at this point, from what I've read, he's already gotten cut in half, like 50%, because that's the way options move. When you're wrong with an option, you quickly lose a high percentage of whatever you risked on the option. So I think that's what's happened there. It doesn't faze me too much. I think he's got a lot of good ideas, but I don't really like to rely on what any particular person says. And I there's certain things that I'm on one side of the boat that I will not change my position on. And that's mainly like Bitcoin. I would never be bullish on Bitcoin or any crypto for that matter. I don't think it would ever happen. But in general, everything else I tend to be liquid. I tend to, Tesla too, I'm very bearish, but generally everything else other than those two things, I tend to be very liquid and open-minded.
So why are you bearish on Bitcoin long term?
Bitcoin, I just see. I don't even think the software is good. Everything else aside, I don't think the software is good. I think the software is slow. It requires too much energy. I think the transactions are too slow. The network could get clogged easily, and then they got the Lightning Network. So they got to basically put add-ons and plugins essentially to make it operate more efficient. But to my understanding, the way the Lightning Network works, and I could be wrong about this, but I think it groups transactions so that it doesn't clog up the network as much, and the whole thing just seems like silly to me. People storing their money on a USB stick, it's not insured, it's not backed up. You lose your password, all your money's gone. The whole thing seems.
But what asset really is insured? I mean, I think people need to take responsibility for their own assets, and having your crypto on a wallet to me is as secure as it gets. I mean, it's like holding gold and silver in your vault or your safe.
Yeah, that's a problem with gold itself too. I know it's just, nothing is completely secure. We can't be prepared against everything. It's impossible to be prepared for everything. But
so you're not nervous at all? Obviously, if we go to central bank digital currencies and the whole world goes digital and we're cashless, there's got to be some type of competition for that. So, I mean, wouldn't crypto be the perfect competition for central bank digital currencies as we go cashless?
I think if we get to that point, I don't think and I think if the central banks really wanted to squash crypto, it'd be very easy for them. I think crypto, it's online, so unless it wasn't online somehow, which I don't see how that would be possible, they can block IP addresses, and then you can get a VPN, and then they can shut down the server, and then they can make it illegal so that if you do find a way around it, and around their restrictions and their internet blocking and whatever else they decide to do to make it complicated and inefficient, then and they catch you, well, then you go to jail. I don't think there's any way to really stop them. I think what people say is happening is going to happen. I don't really think there's a way to completely fight it.
Well, not accept it, I think, would be the only way to fight it, right? Just say we're not going to use it. I'm not going to set up my central bank digital currency account. I'm not going to use it. I think,
Yeah.
obviously, I don't think it's likely, but I'm really hoping that we fight against that, because or else we're talking about full-on slavery for our children and their children. I mean, the world that we're going to go through if we go full-on central bank digital currencies is not a world you want to live in.
Yes, I think there's going to be a lot of restrictions. That's the problem. I think it's going to be like, I just moved into my house and I bought so much stuff. Let me buy this and that, and we're buying so much stuff. And I think, once you get something like that, digital currency, they're going to put restrictions on how much you can buy. They're going to say, well, you're using too much plastic, so you can't go buy a PlayStation because it's a waste of plastic, it's pollution. So we're going to put a restriction on that.
For sure. That's the scary part, right? I mean, or you're going to have to spend your money within 12 months or it goes to zero. Stuff like that.
That would be the worst thing to me. That would be the worst thing to me, yeah.
But I could see
putting
an
expiry date on your money. That's kind of scary.
It's a great way to stimulate the economy, right? Everybody will be spending money. So as crazy as it sounds, it probably will work in the short term. It's just that's going to be more reason to own assets in your own possession outside of the digital banking system, such as Bitcoin, such as gold, such as silver. So, I mean, I like Bitcoin because obviously the technology behind it, the fact that I can send money to China in seconds for low cost. So there's no borders when it comes to crypto. Mm-hmm. The other thing I like is the fact that it's scarce. I don't think there's any more assets more scarce than Bitcoin in the world. I mean, there's only 19 million in the world right now. There's only going to be 21 million in total. You got 8 trillion people in the world. I mean, that's a scarce asset. I mean, if you can own a few Bitcoin, you're going to be in a really good position if you start to see a lot more interest, which I think you will. I think once prices start rising in the crypto market and the dollar starts to tank even more as they lower interest rates eventually, I think you're going to see a lot of people rush into crypto again like they have in the past few cycles. It's the same thing every time. That last year of the cycle, everybody rushes in. And I think you're going to see the exact same thing this time. So none of that interests you in terms of the upside potential of the price? Because, I mean, I think the next bull market, 2025, Bitcoin should be above 100K, probably close to 200K. Obviously, that's a total guess. I don't have a crystal ball. But if it follows past cycles and similar moves based off the money supply and what's happening and with inflation, I think 200,000 Bitcoin is a very safe play. I don't see many other assets in the world today that you can make 5 to 10 times within a couple years, other than doing option trading. Of course, that's a smart play if you know what you're doing, but very dangerous for most people. But obviously, you're a pro, so.
Well, I've made a lot of mistakes with options too.
Of course.
I personally, I don't see. This is it. It's bold to say I don't see anything at all in Bitcoin or that interests me. I see the blockchain technology is interesting, and I think that's going to be part of the future. Absolutely, that I don't doubt. But Bitcoin itself, any of the cryptos for that matter, I'm short them, and I've made a fortune shorting them. And I mean, people are sitting on them waiting to make money, and the money's on the downside. I bought my house in part by betting against everybody that thinks this thing's going to skyrocket. And, I bought my house in cash in part with that money. I think I'm completely on the other side of the spectrum when it comes to Bitcoin. I think it's completely worthless. I don't like the technology. I don't like the system. I don't like the way it works. I think it's slow. I think it's expensive. I transferred $40,000 once because I used to trade Bitcoin. I bought it back in the day, even 2017. I was, to me, it's all a bubble. You just play the game. But I transferred $40,000, and people say the fees are low. It's so cheap to transfer money. Well, it cost me about $3,000 to transfer $40,000 because, trading the fee to move it wasn't much. That was like $20. But then I lost money on the spread between the bid and the ask. I lost money to change it back to my currency, And then in the during the process that it was moving, because it was so volatile, it took about 40 minutes for that transaction to clear. And in that 40 minutes, the price dropped 5%. So to transfer $40,000, I lost around 3,000 in total. And I can't, and I would never, Bitcoin to me, reminds me so much of what made me wealthy initially was the marijuana stocks. And I see it, and it looks so obvious to me that it was a sell the news reaction right at the top, because marijuana stocks went up and up leading up to the day that they were legalized. And literally the day before marijuana stocks were legalized, they peaked. That was the top. They never went that high again. They just went down and down and down. Bitcoin was thought to be an inflation hedge, right? So the mystery was inflation's going to go up. Bitcoin's an inflation hedge. Let's buy Bitcoin. It went up and up and up and up and up until the very day that high inflation was announced, November 10, 2021, I think. I think it was 2021. Yeah, and that's the day it peaked. That's the day I took massive short positions. I said, everyone thinks this thing is supposed to be an inflation hedge. I think it's the exact opposite. I think it's just a buy the mystery, sell the history event. And it's exactly how it played out thus far. And I don't see any reason for it to rise again. If inflation's high and it's going down.
I think the only reason it's gone down over the last, there's a few reasons, but obviously Bitcoin runs in cycles like every other asset class, and we seem to be on a 4-year cycle based off the halving every 4 years, which happens in March of 2024. The reason Bitcoin's gone down over the last 12 months, even more, is because interest rates have been rising. I mean, that's a direct reflection of what happens to all asset prices when interest rates go up. Tell me one asset that's gone up in price since the interest rates have been going up.
Well, the stock market is not too far off. Gold's
not too far
off from the highs. Actually kind of gone up since they began raising interest rates right around the point.
But again, pretty flat, not much happening.
Yeah, pretty flat, yeah. But
I mean,
house prices have gone down a bit, but not too much. But Bitcoin, it got hit the worst out of anything.
Right, because it's a new asset class. It's very... it's not highly traded. It's also manipulated like every other asset. I'm not going to act like manipulation's the reason, but that plays into it as well. Obviously, the FTX debacle was a planned, coordinated event to attack cryptos, for people to lose faith in cryptos. So I think there was a lot of things they did on the inside to drive the price down, add in the raising interest rates. You're talking about record rate hikes over the last few years or a couple years. So these are when I think the Bitcoin bull market will start back up, and I think the same for precious metals, is when the central banks reverse on interest rates and they enter in a whole new money printing program. And it'll probably be led by some bank failures or something along those lines. When that happens, I think you're going to see the price of all commodities and Bitcoin and other cryptos and precious metals will all that will be the beginning of the bull market for commodities. And I think it'll be a long cycle.
I think if that happens, and I see interest rates going a lot higher personally. I think I wouldn't be surprised we see double-digit interest rates. But, I think if it happens that they do lower rates at some point, and I don't see that happening for years at least, what kind of damage is going to be done to Bitcoin in the meantime? I wouldn't want to be sitting on it waiting for that moment personally.
Yeah, no, I hear you, but I do think there will be some great opportunities if we do go into a bear market in stocks and interest rates continue to rise, and we see all asset prices come down. You're gonna have a really great opportunity on Bitcoin at that point, because if the stock market goes down 20%, Bitcoin will go down 50, 60, 70%. So I think those will generate amazing opportunities, because if you can buy Bitcoin for $10,000, for example, I mean, I don't see how Bitcoin doesn't get above 100K in the next bull cycle, just based off of all the money printing. I mean, it's just so much money in the system. It's got to go somewhere. Bitcoin is going to be one of those places that people want to hide their money.
I think a lot of people believe that. I don't. It's impossible for me to. I just don't. I'm short it right now.
Even though it's happened over and over again, like it went from 1,000 to 69,000. You don't care. That doesn't matter to you. An
No.
asset that can go up 69 times just on hype and speculation and not even understanding. That was a complete, all based off hype, all of it. And you're going to have the same thing happen again.
It was the
Nobody's buying
same
Bitcoin for
thing.
the fundamentals.
I've seen it 100 times with so many things. With the wheat stocks, there was the same thing. It went from
But that was one bull market. I mean, we've had
well,
many bull markets in crypto, and then it dies, and then it comes back, and it dies,
oh,
and it
the
comes
wheat
back.
stocks did too. The wheat stocks, they died many times. They came back many times. Some of them went up 100 plus times your money. Obviously, Bitcoin went up the most technically because it started at 1 cent, and because the supply is so low, so it was able to go so high because there's only 21 million of them. And there was less before, but then there's now 19 million, whatever the number is at the current point.
And
But
there's also rumored to be 3 to 4 million Bitcoin that have been completely lost.
yeah,
Not to mention, I think it's 60 or 70% of all Bitcoin hasn't moved in over a year. So these people got diamond hands. They're not selling their Bitcoin. I mean, they're going down with the ship, and they're okay with that. And
yeah.
I'm in that camp, but I also got USDC on the side waiting to buy opportunities if we do have a bear market in all asset prices, which I think might happen in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
What are you thinking about the fourth quarter? There's a lot of talk about there right now about a big major correction in the markets. What do you think?
I'm a day by day kind of guy, but so I don't want to forecast too much. But
Just for our viewers too, Steph, we haven't even introduced you yet. So you're Stefano's. Did I get your last name right? Somma. Somma.
Yes.
Yeah, Stefano Somma,
Yeah.
and you are the creator of 10BaggerStocks,
Yes.
right? And you can follow 10BaggerStocks on Instagram. And you also have courses available, which I purchased one. I just want to note,
thank
and
you.
that's why. But I still haven't. I still haven't finished it.
Okay.
I haven't
It's
done
pretty
it yet.
long. It's a long one.
Yeah, just because I didn't have time. But I've been following your Instagram, and what I like about you is, and why I wanted you on this show too, is you're pretty genuine, and following your Instagram, you show your receipts, and the two biggest things that I think you're known for is bashing Tesla and making a killing on it, and actually you put your receipts.
It hit me back hard.
Yeah, but that's what I like about you. You also put your losses, and you take a step back and you say, "Hey, I'm tired of I'm not going to hit home runs. I'm going to hit maybe a couple thousand a day."
Yeah,
And
no,
you
I
change-
had to calm. Last year was a wild year for me, and
Yeah.
that wasn't my typical kind of thing. I just got into options, and I just was having a lot of fun with them. But options, I can't. It's way too much stress to
Yeah,
do
for
it
sure.
all
It's
the time.
gambling, eh? It's kind of a form of gambling,
Yeah,
somewhat.
for sure.
I mean, you're a tech guy, right? You're a chart guy.
Yeah,
Yeah. So same with Michael here. But the one thing you guys disagree on is you're very bearish on crypto, and Michael's bullish.
yeah, I see that.
And you guys got into it right away.
Yeah.
But you
I-
guys both have really good valid points.
I agree with all of his points. I think they're all valid. I just think people chase money, and I think that's going to happen again in Bitcoin as the dollar dies, and that's just inevitable. I mean, the amount of money that's being printed right now is it's unfathomable. It's absolutely insane, and it's not going to stop. It has to continue to grow.
Yeah.
So for that reason, the dollar is going to die. So it's not like I think Bitcoin's the greatest crypto or greatest asset in the world. I just think I know what people tend to do, and they chase money, and I think they're going to chase into Bitcoin again, and you'll probably get a good 1-2 year bull market again. And I just think it's worth having a little bit in there, 5% of your portfolios, just in case. Like, there's not many other assets in people's portfolio that are going to have a chance to go up 10 times, 20 times, and Bitcoin just happens to be one of those assets that can do that. So for that reason, I think the risk reward is worth having it in your portfolio. I don't think people should be going all in on crypto.
I think
That's
there'll be
just my
those
take.
days where it's going to go up a lot for sure. I just think I personally think the general trend is going to be down, and I don't know.
But you're bullish on gold.
I'm bullish gold, yes, but I also am open minded to the possibility that I'm wrong.
Of course.
Like, there's many reasons I'm bullish gold. Yes, I recognize the money printing problem, the debt problem. as interest rates go up, the government themselves is just paying more and more and more interest on their debts, which is already massive. Um, you know, so that is kind of why I've become bullish gold, and I think gold has always been the form of money for thousands of years. I see China buying a lot of gold. And I see why it's worth something. It's beautiful. It's useful. It's tangible. It could be put on a blockchain too, and it could be used that way. But I recognize the other sides of the coin too that say, well, doesn't pay any dividends, doesn't do any revenue, doesn't really do anything. It just sits there and looks pretty. So I recognize the bearish points on gold too, and but I'm on the bullish side of gold for the most part. But I do see the points for the other side.
Steph,
Yeah.
are you more physical or ETFs with gold?
Lately, I was doing a lot of physical, but I put it like TD has this storage thing, and I was putting a lot in there because I can't store gold in my house, especially after I told everyone I was buying. So I'm like, okay, it's like that would be dumb.
Yeah,
So
with all your followers.
yeah, TD has this thing called secure storage, and I deposit a lot in there. And basically, it's insured for you. They store it for you. They store it with Brinks, and Brinks is kind of they're holding it for you. I don't think anything is completely secure, but
No, especially a bank. I
Yeah.
have zero faith in the banking system. It's so fragile. It's going to go down at some point. I mean,
yeah.
obviously they can keep saving it by printing and printing, but that's why you own gold, right?
Yeah,
As a hedge
the
against.
gold in TD Secure Storage is segregated, so it's not, or allocated, so it's not part of the bank's assets. So in the case that the bank does go bankrupt, they can't take your gold. It's allocated to you. So that's something I liked about the program, which is why I put gold in there.
The one thing I'm not a big fan of storing my commodity, my gold and silver with other people is obviously there's risk of that company being defunct or whatever. It could be even the Brinks company that goes bankrupt. That maybe I don't know who actually owns the gold. I didn't read through the contract,
Yeah.
but the other thing I'm nervous about is if the government does confiscate again, which I think is a very, very high probability based off of what we're going to go through and what the valuations of gold, silver will be. So if you are holding your gold and silver in vaults at TD, for example, my guess is within the first week of confiscation, they're going to be calling those vaults and turning in that gold.
I think
'Cause-
if we get to that point, I don't think it matters what you have, whether it's gold or silver or Bitcoin or stocks or whatever. If we get to that point, I don't think you're safe anywhere but having, physical protection, like weapons and
agree.
stuff and food, like a hiding place. That's the only thing I think.
For short term, yeah, I agree. But long term, for my family's well being, I mean, I hope to leave them something one day. And I mean, if it's not in my possession and I'm relying on a third party, I get a little nervous about that.
Yeah, if we got, if things got that bad, I don't think there's any way to prepare for it. I don't think there's not much you can do. We can do the best we can to prepare for these kind of scenarios. I think ultimately, if things were to get that bad, there's not much you can do but run and hide, and
Mad Max. You're
Yeah.
talking about Mad Max if everything goes bad. But Steph, doesn't it attractive to you that like a Bitcoin or you're not I just want to know how paranoid you are. You're not a big government guy, right? So wouldn't crypto and hard assets be very attractive to you because the governments don't have their hands on that? And doesn't that make that attractive to you? Because from your philosophies, listening to you, I would say you would lean towards that more.
I think the government has their hands in everything. I think the Bitcoin is one of the biggest things they have their hands in. I think it was all
Yeah.
a ploy. I think the government has created it themselves. I think they did it as a ploy to basically steal people's money, and it's shown it over and over again. I mean, the Fed, the FBI, somehow they're always getting, oh, we what do they say? They confiscated Bitcoin, whatever, that some drug dealer or whatever, they confiscated their Bitcoin. How did they take their Bitcoin?
It's
It's
impossible.
impossible to take. How did they take it? But they took it. They got it in their possession, and now they're going to sell it on the market. How did they do that? I think the government created Bitcoin. I think that's the reason why you know absolutely nothing about it. Who created it? I think that's why they let it go rampant without regulation for so long. I think it was designed to trap people, to take people's money, because ultimately, if we are worried about the government, basically doing a power struggle with people, trying to take people's money and get rid of the middle class and whatnot, designing something that people think they're going to get away from the government with and pumping it up to the sky is a great way to suck people in and complete their objective of taking everyone's money.
There's easier ways to do that, though. They don't have to create Bitcoin just to take people's money. They could just crash the stock market today to down 95%.
Not everyone has stocks, and people are,
or they can
they're
just crash the
googly-eyed.
dollar. I mean,
People are
they're gonna-
googly-eyed about the number, right? Let's go into 1,000,000. Just buy one, it's going to go to 1,000,000. It's so easy to trick people. I don't know. It's just, yes, it's something that I would never change it can go to 1,000,000 and I won't change my mind, but I see it going personally.
You've missed opportunities in the past, so you're not going to chase it at this point.
I don't even
is
feel
fair.
like it's chasing. I worry like I'm chasing the short. I got a huge short position on it right now. I think it's going to plummet within the matter of days. But
Where do you think it's going to go, Steph?
at the end of the day, I think it's going directly to zero. But like in the short term,
That's impossible for the record.
it's not
Mathematically impossible.
It's actually programmed to go to zero. People don't, it's literally programmed to go to zero once the supply runs out, right? It's programmed to go to zero because there's no miners at that point. Who's going to mine if there's nothing to mine? So if
They'd be validating transactions at that point.
well, then the fees would be outrageous,
and
right?
making sure the network is working properly.
Then the fees to pay to transfer it would be a skyrocket. So who would want to use it? So it's literally programmed to go to zero, in my opinion. But it's not going to take 100 years to do that. It's going to do it a lot faster.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot. There's people been saying Bitcoin's going to zero for
only a
beginning,
decade. It's a very short bubble. That's actually the typical length of a normal bubble. It's only about a decade, just over. And really, it's in the last 5 years that it really went mainstream. But
again, I don't advise anybody to invest in anything they don't.
yeah,
And I'm not saying you don't understand it, but truly understand and believe in and understand the fundamentals and everything about it to before they invest in any asset. So I'm not trying to.
Yeah.
I'm not blindly pushing people to buy crypto. I'm just saying, why not? Tell me one other asset that it has a lot of upside right now, other than commodities. I mean, stocks. Where's your upside? 20%, fantastic. Not interested.
no, stocks they could go up thousands
bonds.
of percents. You have to recognize that the billionaires they got to put their money somewhere, and while they raise interest rates, and all the retail investors are forced to sell their gold, they're forced to sell this and that. The big guys come in, they're not forced to sell anything. They're buying up everyone's assets, and nobody's going to benefit from it because people just don't have the money. They need the money to pay their bills. And so stocks, just like in any hyperinflated currencies country, Argentina, Venezuela, there's a bunch of other ones. Their stock markets, they went up not 2 times, not 10 times. They went up 1,000 times your money in the stock market because the currency hyperinflated. I see that as a possibility, but I'm not banking on that either. I like to just get in and get out, and that's it. The only thing that I believe on really holding right now is gold, because like I see that it has, whether the price goes up or down, I still have something real.
Right. Right. Now, I'm a huge silver guy, so I tend to push silver more than gold for a variety of reasons. What are your thoughts on the silver market? Are you familiar with what's going on there? Because it's really, really exciting.
I think gold is going to go. Gold and silver are both going to go up in sync with each other. I'm more of a gold guy for the simple reason that I think big money is in gold. Like it's a 11, $12 trillion market. Silver's I think it's 2 trillion. I like to put money where I think your average person is not going to put money. And I think your average person might see silver as the cheaper option. It's an easier way. It's going to go up more because it's cheaper. And so I would rather put my money in gold, because everyone else is, in my opinion, is going to be chasing silver, the cheaper thing that looks more appealing to people. So to me, I want more stability. I want what the governments are buying. I'm not trying to fight the government. I'm not going to try and fight them. I don't think I'm going to win. So for me, if the governments, they're buying gold, I want to do what they're doing.
And the reason they're not buying silver or publicly stating they're buying silver is they can't. They're not allowed to. I mean, the silver market is way too scarce. It's very important to our world today.
Oh yeah, it's right. Necessary for a lot of
to live. I mean, computers, phones, laptops. Now the two new use cases are solar panels and electric cars.
Yeah.
The growth in the silver demand from an industrial standpoint is astronomical. We're seeing huge shortages. Last year's 350 million ounce shortfall. This year 550. Next year they're predicting 850 million ounce shortfall.
I'm bullish silver. I don't want to make it sound like I'm not. I'm bullish commodities in general. To me, in a situation where the currency inflates,
exactly.
the value of tangible things that are useful, things that people need, things that companies need, things that are used to make things, those things are going to go up in price. And that includes, to me, oil, uranium, lithium, silver, gold, natural gas, like all commodities. I am bullish in general.
Same. So I'm of the belief that we're at the beginning of the biggest bull market in history for commodities. I think you're going to see, it could be 10 years. I'm not sure how long it will last. And I also see the opposite on the bond market and the stock market, where obviously we are 14 years, the stock market's been going up. Bond market's been going up for over 40 years. Finally, the rates are going up and it's going the other way now. So, I mean, I think you're going to see a bear market in traditional financial asset classes, and I think you're going to see a huge bull market in commodities. Are you kind of feeling the same thing?
I agree with you on the commodities. I agree with you on the bond market. I do think bonds are going lower. I do think interest rates are going higher. In terms of the stock market, I'm a little on the fence there. I'm not too one-sided there. I was thinking we'd have a long-term bear market, but I also recognize that your average person just can't afford stocks. They can't buy these stocks. They can't afford it. They need money to pay their high interest on their mortgage. So
good point.
I think, even if the stock market isn't a bull market, your average person's not going to benefit, because your average person needs money just to try and get by. And
For sure.
And so I see the potential that the stock market does continue rising, although I'm more on the Canadian side here. I like to bet on Canada because Canada is more of a resource commodity-based economy. The U.S. is all tech and software, and that I'm not really interested in personally. That's where I think more of the bubble is, because software can be replicated and duplicated a million times, and you can copy and paste, whereas something that's physical and tangible, it's a lot harder to obtain. And that's something that can inflate more because it requires a lot of physical manpower to mine and create these commodities. Whereas something like software, it's a lot easier to create without the prices of it inflating. And so I'm bullish more Canada. The U.S. I don't buy U.S. stocks. Like, I'll trade them, but I don't invest in them. I invest in Canada. But I agree with you on commodities. I agree with you on the bond market. The stock market, I'm bullish Canada anyways. The States, not so much. I think money's going to come out of the States.
I agree.
Can you share with our listeners your story about Tesla, Steph?
No,
The whole
it's a
shorting.
painful one.
But well, it's a cool one where you made a killing at shorting.
Yeah.
And I remember when it was at 1,000, you were saying this stock is not even worth $50.
Yeah, I still believe
And
that.
then
I still believe that.
and then I actually watched you make money on the way down. If you want to talk about it, it's a cool story.
Yeah.
I followed it, but probably a lot of our listeners haven't.
Last year, I've been doing stocks for around 9 years in total. About 9 years, I think, since I was 23, 24. And about 9 years. And I started with the weed stocks. The weed stocks I did quite well on. I just had the hunch. I already knew. I'm like, this is going to be a bubble. Everyone's going to go crazy for this. I'm like,
Right.
legalizing weed. I mean, everyone loves weed. The thing's just going to go up. So I kind of got into that knowing that it would become a bubble with the plan that I'm going to mainly play these stocks until the day that it's legalized, and then they're going to go down and they're all going to crash because at the end of the day, they're just farms. And so I went into it with that mindset. I did quite well with the weed stocks. With the weed stocks, I think early on I invested about $40,000 total, and I turned it into over $500,000 in my TFSA, which was nice.
Nice.
So that was a good investment for me at the time, and that's really how I got started. And so then I did stocks for a while, and I would shoot to make $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a day when I would do stocks. And then I got into options, and I started off small, like 10 grand. I got into options really last year, mainly at the beginning of the year. I started off 10 grand, and then the 10 turned to 20, the 20 turned to 40, the 40 turned to 80, the 80 turned to 160, the 160 turned to 300. And before you know it, my $10,000 in options turned into $7 million in a matter of 6 months. $10,000 to $7 million trading options in 6 months. I got so high, though. I got so greedy. It's so dumb, really. It's just dumb when you look back at it. But
well, success ruins men.
The problem is it happened so fast. Like it was like a blip, from 10 grand to 7 million. Like I was already pretty wealthy before. Like I said, I already made a good chunk of money on the weed stocks. I was already trading for a while. I flipped a few condos, so I was already a millionaire, but that took me to a whole other level, right? But it happened so fast. I didn't even have time to process it. And then I went to Italy, and when I went to Italy, that's when I hit my peak. I had one day where I made $2.2 million in one day, in a single day, 2.2 million.
Wow, that's nice.
One trade?
That was a combination of Bitcoin puts, BITO puts, BITO. It's a ETF that tracks the price of Bitcoin. So I had a huge short position on it, and then it was Tesla puts. So in that one day, it was like crazy. I made so much money, but it made me blind. It made me blind, made me too greedy. So then after that, I kept chasing. I wasn't satisfied making 5, 10, 20, 50,000 anymore. I want to make at least $100,000 a day. And, that's when things started going sour. And then I took a big short position put position on Tesla. And then that position went to zero. And that was $1.8 million US. So 2.3 million, give or take, Canadian, blown to zero. And then I went on, I tried to make some of it back. I went on and I ended up giving back like $4 million of the 7 million that I made. So the greed came from, I'll tell you where the greed came from, but it was, I kept saying to myself, I'm like, I didn't make 7 million because more than half of that is going to the government. I'm like, damn, it's not 7 million. It's only 3.3, because the tax rate is at the highest bracket is 54%, 53, 54%. It's ridiculous. So to me, I didn't feel like I made that much money because I knew more than half of it is going to the government. And that's kind of what caused me to be greedy
Right.
and lose the value of the money, you know. So I ended up giving a lot back. Now from then on, I can't stomach options anymore. I'm kind of more settled now. I'm happy where I'm at. I'm in a good spot. My mortgage is paid. You know, I have money. My car's paid. Everything's paid, and I feel really comfortable now. And I don't want to go so crazy about money all the
You don't
time.
have to swing. You don't have to swing for the fences anymore.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
now I'm shooting
I
for
learned.
smaller gains. You know, I'm
Yeah.
trying at this point. I'm going back to my old ways, which is, you know, shooting for $5,000 to $10,000 a day, maybe a little more, but give or take between $5,000 and $20,000 a day is what I'm shooting for, which is still a lot of freaking money in general terms. I mean,
Yeah, I have a similar greed story in the crypto world. So twice,
yeah,
two bull markets I went through, and I didn't sell the top or even close to the top both
no, it
times. So
happens to everyone.
I've learned. I mean, I can't wait for the next bull market because if I fuck that one up again, uh, I swear.
It's over. You're throwing in the
You
towel.
gotta short it, man. You gotta short it. I'm telling
Eventually,
you.
Yeah.
that's what I'll do eventually. Yeah.
Short it. I'm short right now. It's going down today. That's going well for me. Today and yesterday, both nice profits.
Yeah.
I can't sit on something hoping to make money. I won't do it. It's just, to me, you know, the way what they tell people, buy and hold anything, stocks, this, that, I think it's all nonsense. I think the real way to make money is you buy it, it goes up, you sell it, and you run and you run as far as you can. To
Yeah.
me, as far as I've seen, that's always been the way to make money. It's just when I hold too
But
long,
but you have to put a lot of time into doing that. You know what I
that's
mean?
true. And a
People,
lot of people don't have that.
It's true.
exactly. Like you can't be a part-time day trader, right? Like really, or you can a little
You
bit,
can, but you need a lot of
yeah,
self-control. You know, you
right.
can say, "Oh, just in the morning I'm going to trade and then buy it, you know, for a couple
Yeah,
hours and then be done for the day and then you have an afternoon job." But you really need to
yeah,
have a lot of self-control to be a part-time trader because it's addicting. You don't want to stop, but you're looking at the numbers. You don't want to think of
Yeah.
anything else and you don't even want to work. Why would you want to work when you know you can
yeah.
click a button and make $1,000 in a second, in a minute?
Yeah. I just don't have that. I mean, I've done options trading. I've made a lot on certain trades, and I've lost a lot on certain trades. It's just not something for me. You got to have the time. You got to have the patience. You got to.
It's not easy either.
It's not easy. So for me, I know you say you don't believe in the buy and hold theory, but I think for the general public, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
To give you an example, owning silver in the 70s, if you bought it at $1, it went to $50 less than 10 years later. So
But
if
if
you
you
hung
bought
on the
it 10
whole
years
ride,
later, then you're sitting
yeah,
on
you're
it for
fucked.
the last 30, 40 years
Well,
and you
exactly.
still
You got to
didn't
just
make
know where
money.
you're at. I agree. You got to know where you're at in the cycles. And to your point, take profits on the way up, right? I think that's the important part. And that's the lesson I learned in crypto.
Yeah.
Take profits all the way up. You don't have to sell your whole position,
Yeah.
but take profits all the way. And then at the end, you're only left with like maybe 10% of your original position.
For sure.
So I think that to me for more traditional, not savvy investors, I think the buy and hold can work, but just be ready to sell on and take profits, right?
I think
think
the best way to make money aside from stocks really is investing in your own businesses. And,
1,000%.
you know,
Yeah.
to me, you know, that's not a for sure thing either. But if you can create
No.
a good business and invest in yourself,
Hmm.
to me, that's the number one investment that anybody can make is investing in themselves. And,
For
you
sure.
know, I've had a few good businesses. I did like photo booth, you know, at weddings, take pictures, and it prints them out right away. People love that. You know, that was doing well for me. My 10-bagger stocks, you know, it wasn't intended to be a business in the beginning. But then everyone started asking me, "Oh, do you have a course? Do you teach?" Because I was posting a lot of free info, and I'm like, "Yeah, might as well. Might as well make a course. Might as well teach people. That's what people want." And
You got me hooked after your Tesla
yeah.
shorts, and I was like, I gotta buy this guy's course. I was like,
So, that was another
yeah,
business idea. And business
yeah,
is the best thing in the end because, if you can make a successful business, it's definitely a great way to be successful. Investing in yourself. Because I find myself, I'm investing in other people's businesses all the time with stock
Right.
markets. But what about my own? What about my own ideas? So I got
No,
other
I agree.
things in the pipeline. I got ideas, things I'm working on. I was working on an app. I want to teach kids about finance. I got other ideas I'm working on. Um, and it's not even
Awesome.
just for money, but it's also just to get away from this computer, which is
Right.
addicting. I'm still looking at the numbers right now. I'm watching Bitcoin, you know,
yeah.
What's it at right now?
25,480.
Yeah, right back.
So, I took a big short position on it yesterday because I thought people were going to be faked out by this ETF news, which I think
Sell the rumor, buy the news. Is that what it
I
is?
think it's all a ploy, right? I mean, BlackRock making an ETF, these are the same guys that told people to sell in 2017. Now they're telling people to buy. Now they're getting all invested. Now they're making ETFs. I think it's all a scam.
So you don't think that ETF will bump up Bitcoin?
Yeah,
Well, like ETFs
temporarily.
usually do, right? Temporarily,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
very temporarily. It'll
yeah.
provide a little bit of juice. You'll get a day or two of some gains, and then right back down and even lower, in my opinion.
It's funny because fundamentally, it's very, 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 very similar to Bitcoin. It checks all the boxes of money, every single one. So for that reason, I'm somewhat surprised that you're
It
so
doesn't for
anti.
me. I don't know. People say it
Tell me one
does.
box it doesn't check.
Slow transactions. The
It's faster.
transactions get
It's
bogged
faster than
down.
delivering gold. It's faster. It's
Oh,
better
that's
than gold in every single
that's
way.
why I'm not 1,000% sure about gold, but um, it's too slow. It's too expensive. It's too volatile. I wouldn't be able to sleep knowing that
But it's still
Bitcoin is my
quicker than our
money.
traditional. It's still quicker than our traditional wire bank system. Like,
Wasn't for
let's
me
be
when I
honest.
used it. That was
It's
slow and
quicker. It's
expensive.
cheaper. I think that's a rare anomaly. I think if you put in 50,000 of Bitcoin right now and you sent it, it would cost you barely nothing, and it would get there very
I would
quick.
lose about 3% right away on the fee just to buy it. That I'm going to be charged. That they're going to charge me just to buy it in the first place.
It's the same when you buy physical gold and silver. I mean, there's an in and out cost to every asset.
But again, that's not why. That's why I'm not so certain about gold. Like I have my doubts too. Like gold is something I'm bullish on, but I have
You
my
got five
doubts
thousand
too.
years. You got 5,000
Yes.
years of history on your side. I think I like your chances.
Yeah. No. Well, that's why I feel more comfortable with gold.
Yeah, for
Well,
sure.
what about the way the American dollar is going? And
It's gonna go
you know,
up
does
first. It's gonna go
Right.
up
yeah,
first because people
yeah,
need
It's
it.
already started.
People
Yeah.
need it. So it's causing a problem as the interest rate rises. Everybody needs dollars, right? So everyone's
yeah.
debt's denominated in US. So at least at first, it's probably going to go up, which has been happening.
Yep.
But I do think ultimately, I do think that the American dollar eventually
Will
it's
crash?
going to get hyperinflated. But
Agree.
I also see a possibility that you know, I don't feel like I'd like to see things from possible different angles, and I also see a possibility that we do go to a digital currency, and since it's so controlled that maybe it doesn't crash. Maybe you need it. Maybe there's no way around it, right? You just need the dollar, and that's just the way it is. It's the points system, right? And if you
But
have
but
dollars, that's how you get by.
but just from sheer mathematics of how it all works, a debt-based economy and fractional reserve bank, the debt has to continue to grow and grow and grow and grow exponentially.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I mean, it has no choice but to go down in value if you're comparing it to gold and silver. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it could do better than other currencies, fiat currencies, sure, but you got to compare it to real money,
Yeah.
and that's gold and silver. And there's no way U.S. dollar is going to outperform gold and silver over the next 10 years.
Long term, it's almost certain
impossible.
to lose
Yeah,
a
right.
lot of its value. But
It's already down 95% or 97% now
yeah,
since 1913. So I mean, it's going to zero like every other fiat currency in history.
yeah,
That's what they do.
Eventually, it makes sense that would be the case. And, Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger agree with that too.
Do they?
Yeah. They said the US dollar, it's going to go to zero eventually. They said,
And yet they're
Buffett
still not.
says, I understand why people buy gold, because can't trust fiat currency. And he says, yeah, they have every reason to believe that. It makes perfect sense. But he's like, they're buying into the wrong thing. They should be buying assets that are productive, that like stocks, assets that are generating revenue. And that makes sense to me. So,
It does.
but I do think
Well,
we're going to have a big commodity bull market. So
Right.
Buffett is not a market timer. He's just a long-term guy. And I think his idea, I don't think he's totally off the ball. I think he's kind of on the ball to an extent. But I want to make money today. I don't want to sit on something for 30, 40 years to make money. So to me,
For sure.
oil looks like it's going to go up today, I want to be in oil. If gold looks like it's going to go up, I want to be in gold.
Right.
And that's kind of how I operate.
So what about your thoughts on what's happening with all the BRIC nations right now? Obviously, they just added a few more countries. I think now it works out to like 40% of the world population is in BRICS.
Yeah.
Or the economy. I forget what it was, but I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, there's so many rumors about them going to a gold-backed currency or some type of commodity-backed currency. Do you think it's going to happen, or is this just all talk? I mean, where are we headed when it comes to BRICS and the future of our financial system?
I think it's very possible all that talk happens. My concern is I don't know how the system can change without a massive war. So I think that's more my concern here, is that I'm just hoping we don't get a massive war. Because,
I think that's coming down the pipeline. Watching Tucker Carlson, he brought up a good point. He said, I'll bet my house we're going in a hot war with Russia, United States and Russia.
Yeah.
And I could definitely see that.
Well, Ukraine's
These
attacking
warmongers-
Russia now, right?
Yeah,
In their
but they're
country.
supported by UN.
Yeah.
But they're supported by the UN and United States. If those guys back out, that war is done. That could be end overnight, that war. But these guys want to go with Russia. And I really like Tucker. Out of all the journalists, that's the only person who's level-headed and talks the honest truth to me. And he brought up that good point just recently that was all over Twitter, and that's scary. We could head into a big depression if that happens.
Well,
Never mind recession.
yeah. Well, never mind depression. We might be dead.
We might all be ashes.
So
And I don't see how it's avoidable, to be honest with you. I don't see how a full-on world war is. I think it's inevitable. I
hope
don't see how
not.
we get away.
That's what scares me. The government
No.
Me
control
too.
and stuff. Unfortunately,
That's crazy.
I see more control, more security, less privacy as an inevitability. I don't think I think as a population grows, as the world changes, as things go digital, I just don't think there's any way of stopping that. I feel like I'm being monitored anyways. I don't know. It doesn't even bother me, because
Yeah.
I feel like as long as they don't bother me about small things, and I don't really care.
Well, they kind of did during the pandemic.
Yeah,
They showcased.
that's the
That's
problem.
what woke me up. That
Forcing
woke
you
me
to
up.
take something that you may not want to take. I don't like
Yeah,
being forced things, for sure.
me too. And that really woke me up, because if you would have told me that 5 years ago or 10 years ago, I would have thought you're crazy.
Yeah, lock
That's
everyone
never gonna
down,
happen.
and
Yeah, exactly. I would have put you in a mental asylum. Like, it would have been like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have believed nobody who said that. And
That's the
that
scary
really
stuff.
opened up my
How about you
eyes.
can't get into a restaurant or a hospital or anywhere without showing proof of the vaccine?
yeah,
How crazy was that?
Yeah,
Being
that's the
denied at
scary stuff.
restaurants was so sad. I mean,
Oh my God. That's what I'm saying. I think anything could happen. I'm paranoid now, and I think you should be. There's
Just to
actually a
prepare.
book about that. Yeah.
I just
The
don't think
paranoid
there's
survive.
that much you can do. You can
No.
try and stack
You
up
can only do-
whatever you want in your house, but I think
I
Well,
think
Steph,
having,
where do you think we're at? We're at I think we're at a crossroads of the Great Reset or the Great Awakening. People are waking up now more than ever. They've seen this, and now they're like, hey, how many times can you be lied to? So do you think we're kind of at that crossroads where we might go to this Great Reset? Well, they'll reset everything and we'll be on like a social credit system like China and total control? Or do we go into a Great Awakening where people wake up and maybe save us from a World War III, save us from this
Central banks.
Exactly.
I would hope we don't, have a World War III and stuff, but I think people are woken up already. I just think that people are so pushed into a corner that they don't even know what to do. People are so pushed in a corner they can't afford their mortgages. They can barely afford to get by. They're just trying to get by. And so, I don't know how people are going to fight it if you rely on food from the government, if you rely on housing from the government, if you rely on this. People are, you can fight the government, you can understand it, but if you can't get food without listening to them, what are you going to do? And I think I don't know, it's just a very complicated thing, and I don't really know how we can fight it if it is going that way. And the only thing I can think of is trying to obtain as much as you can now before hyperinflation and trying to own necessities and tools and useful things, or grow your own food, garden, this, that, that kind of, that's the best way I think you can fight it.
I agree. I mean, obviously guns as well, to be able to protect yourself and your family.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot you can do to prepare for what's coming. So that's what I tell people to do. Why not? You don't want to be in that situation. It's insurance, right?
Yeah.
You never want to use it, but you have it just in case.
That's how I think too.
And it's the same with gold and silver. I mean, just in case, it's good to have it.
Absolutely.
In case.
That I agree. Sure. I might be in a little bit of la-la land because I'm in a better spot than a lot of people. And so it's hard for me to be like completely negative about the government and so worried and stuff, because I've been here for a while, and at least up till now, I've been quite taken care of. I've got food, I got health care, I got a home, I got a lot of, I go down my street 5 minutes away, I got all the biggest stores, I got parks, I've been taken care of, and I've lived a good life in Canada, and, I'm still living a good life as of now, and I have a lot, and I'm very blessed. And so it's hard for me to completely see the negative. Like, if they want to watch me, what am I going to do?
Go ahead.
Watch me, like, have fun, like, I think that sometimes, like, even if they heard me, they were listening to me all day. Okay, have fun. I'm not doing anything illegal, so I don't care. If the law stays, like the law, it's getting easier, which I don't really like. I don't think they should, like, they're getting easier on drugs and stuff like that. Like, I don't think they should be letting people on the street do drugs. But, it's hard for me to completely see the negative because I'm in a good spot. So, like, I'm a little more on the positive side, and I'm kind of looking, I think things will somehow get better. I think things are going to get better. So I like to prepare in case, but I actually think things are going to get better somehow. And I think as time goes on,
I like to be optimistic too.
Yeah.
But
I just think they're going to get worse before they get better. So there is going to be that transition period. It is really, really ugly. And a lot of people are going to be in a really bad spot.
A lot of people are going to lose their homes and stuff like that. And that's what I feel sad about, for a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be a unless they tune in the Gold Awakening podcast or they follow 10BaggerStocks. That's why we do these podcasts. Kind of, people
get a fixed mortgage, not variable.
Really. Well, you can't get this information from, that's the beauty about, I love podcasts. I'm a podcast junkie. You can't get this information on mainstream media.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And And that's why I like being a part of that, because you're actually helping. You're telling people to get in hard assets, diversify their portfolio,
Invest in themselves.
Invest in themselves, entrepreneur, get away from big government. Like, don't rely on the government. When you're like that, you're powerful.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And they don't
As much
want
as
that,
you can
obviously.
be. As much as you can.
Yeah, as much as you can be. Yeah. The more free you can be, the better you are.
Yeah.
Do you want to plug anything, Steph, for this podcast, for the viewers? News course coming out. Anything?
I just want people to check out my app, which I think it'll probably be released within in September. 10BaggerStocks will be the app.
Okay.
And basically,
And what could go ahead.
the app is what I'm intending it to be, and it may take a little while to put a lot of content and stuff on there, but basically it's going to be a way to connect with a lot of other people that are into stocks and a lot of Canadians that are into stocks and similar interests and investments. So it's going to have forums, places you can message other people. You're going to be able to earn badges. You're going to be getting news, since Instagram is blocking news and stuff like that. I can't post links. So I'll be able to do that in my own app. I want to send out alerts, like ideas, trade ideas and stuff like that. Have educational videos on there. It's going to have my courses on there. I want to connect people with other services and stuff, financial services and stuff through the app. It's mostly education, information, connection, community. So that's what the app is. So keep an eye on that in September.
For sure.
And
you heard of
10BaggerStocks. That's the 110BaggerStocks,
Yes.
right? Okay. Awesome. Okay, brother. Well, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. It was a pleasure meeting you, and I hope we can do this again sometime.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
Thanks, Steph. I appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, brother.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.